And good morning to everybody. For those who are new, for those who forgot, I'm Christine Jacobs. I have the privilege of being the executive director for the last 11 years, I think it is, of Represent PA. We are the PAC in Pennsylvania, specifically geared towards electing pro-choice, democratic, progressive women to the state legislature. We're pleased today to have, we're talking about the Pennsylvania Senate. Is it flippable, and who's going to make that happen? And what difference would it make if it was flippable? And we're pleased today to have Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis, who most of you know through our state constitution is also president of the Senate. And then we have State Senator Maria Collette from Montgomery County, who we've supported since 6 years ago, I think, when she first ran for office. And now she works with the Senate campaign committee, and she'll give us an overview on overall races and the status in Pennsylvania of Senate races. And then we also have 3 Senate candidates with us. State Rep Patty Kim from Dauphin County, who we have supported in her state rep races in the past, and she's running for Senate. Nicole Rashido, who's a school teacher and a coach and a local representative, and is running for Senate Allegheny County, and Kate Lennon, who is running in Beaver, Butler, and Lawrence counties, and also in the far western part of our Commonwealth. Next slide. And let me just take a minute to mention the House side. We are working to expand our House majority. Partially through the work of Represent and many other people, the House flipped after the last election. But Speaker Joanna McClinton has been working with a 1-seat majority, and it's painful. It's painful to get everybody all on the same page for votes, but she has done it. But we've got to get them out of the panic mode. We've got to get them out of the, oh, somebody resigned, now what do we do? Do we still have a majority mode? We have, the caucus has 5 seats that, more than that, but we're supporting 5 seats in the House that they consider to be the top tier. Top tier meaning they think they have the greatest likelihood of flipping, and we're supporting some strong women there. And we have some tier 2 districts, and we don't, we believe in the districts that people don't say have a great opportunity, but we say these are strong, progressive women who are working towards change in the state, and we want to support them. Next slide. On the Senate side, currently the numbers are 28 and 22. In 1992 was the last time that there wasn't an outright Republican majority. But since the 1992 election, it was a 50-50 split. Since then, the Republicans have ruled. And what does that mean? It means inaction. It means that right now there are over 400 bills passed by the House that have received no Senate action. I love those folks who say, oh, well, I want to work on a bipartisan basis. Sure. You can't work on a bipartisan basis if the Senate refuses to bring bills to committees, and that is entirely controlled by the majority. It is not controlled by our wonderful Lieutenant Governor, who's president of the Senate. It is controlled by the committees. And if the committees don't bring these things up for, one of my favorite issues around this was, back when the House was Republican, do you know it wasn't until 4 years ago that the House Committee on Energy and the Environment ever used the words climate change? Until then, they never even talked about it. You were only allowed to talk about drilling. Energy and the environment was about drilling. After in 4 years ago, they decided to bring in, the Republican leader of that committee decided to bring in a climate change denier to talk about it. Now they talk about it because they're in the majority and they set the agenda. We need that in the Senate. We have, as I said, there's 28-22. I'm sure that Senator Collette will mention that we're looking to flip 3 seats, and 2 of the 3 seats are women that are supported by Represent. But we also believe in all the women who are running for these offices, and we'll talk to Kate Lennon today about her race in Butler, Beaver County. And it's an interesting story. Next slide. So who do we have here? Today we have Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis, and he'll lead off and talk about what a difference it would make if you had a Democratic majority. How would it look different? What would it be different in the Senate, and how would it be different for all of us in Pennsylvania? Next slide. As I mentioned, we have Senator Maria Collette, who we've supported since her first campaign in 2018, and she's the secretary of the campaign committee, the SDCC campaign committee. Next slide. We have State Rep Patty Kim, who has been working out of Harrisburg. She was in the Harrisburg City Council. She's been in the State House supporting, and one of her bills has been she's one of the big advocates for raising minimum wage in Pennsylvania. Next slide. And now that, by the way, now that Patty Kim got minimum wage passed in the House, now she needs to move to the Senate to finish what she started. And we have Nicole Rashido from Allegheny County. She's a teacher, she's a coach, she's a PSEA member, and I want her on the Education Committee in the worst way. Next slide. And we have Kate Lennon, who is raised in a union household. She's an attorney. She's been politically active and served on a number of boards. And the people in her local counties drafted her to run against a long-term incumbent because they thought she had a strong voice that they wanted to get out there. And she's doing that. Next slide. And by the way, these are for you, Marion Brown. We're going to show you where these candidates are located. We always get questions as to, okay, you say this county, where the heck is it? So here we have Patty Kim in the Harrisburg area. We have Nicole Rashido in Allegheny County, that's the lower left one, and we have Kate Lennon from the upper right one in the intersection of Butler, Lawrence, and Beaver counties. Next slide. Please put your questions in the chat and let's proceed with our discussion. So, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis, thank you for joining us for the first, we're happy to have you here. We don't always have male voices on these calls, but we're happy to have you. Would it make a difference to what you do in Harrisburg if you had a Democratic majority in the Senate?
Oh, it'd be a huge difference. First, thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you all for being here, for your efforts to not only elect pro-choice candidates, but to make sure that our government and state government is truly represented in our Commonwealth. I'm so thrilled to be here with Senator Collette, who's really been a strong champion and leader in the Pennsylvania State Senate, and somebody that I work closely with. And I'm so excited that my former colleague in the House, Representative Patty Kim, is making the journey across the hallway to the Senate. I'm so excited about the leadership that she's going to bring to all Pennsylvanians serving in the state Senate, particularly central Pennsylvania. But it would make a huge difference to have a Democratic Senate. There have been 400 bills that the Democratic House has passed that has been sitting in the state Senate. Bills like common sense gun reform legislation, the Pennsylvania Fairness Act to eliminate discrimination from our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. Raising the minimum wage has been stuck in the Senate. It has been made harder. The governor and I, along with the Democratic House, has secured major investments in our public education system. That has been a challenge because of a Republican Senate. And one of the things that many folks don't recognize or don't necessarily think about, the Senate controls the appointment power in a lot of ways to state government positions. So anytime the governor appoints a new cabinet secretary, someone to a board or commission, that has to go through the Pennsylvania State Senate. And a lot of times the Republican majority holds those appointments hostage for other policy priorities that they want. And so I think it's critically important that we invest in winning state Senate seats. I think we can do it. We have phenomenal candidates running this year, like Nicole, like Jim Wertz up in Erie, like Patty Kim, to help us get to that majority. But if we get to a 25-25 majority, I will be empowered to be the tie-breaking vote on procedural votes in the state Senate. And because I am a Democrat, that will give the majority to the Democrats. And being in the majority is so important because you control the calendar. We often hear Republican candidates, some Republican candidates will say, I'm for raising the minimum wage. I support a woman's right to choose, right? But they never actually have to prove it because they never have to put up votes on the floor of the Senate because they never bring those bills up. I believe we can get these pieces of legislation passed through, particularly in the 25-25 split, because there is going to be a lot of pressure on more moderate senators to put up those votes in ways that they haven't had to do that in the past. And so it would be a phenomenal difference. I was born in 1989, and for the vast majority of my life, the Pennsylvania Senate has been controlled by Republicans. I just want you to think about the great things that we can do in Pennsylvania with an expanded Democratic majority in the House, a Democratic state Senate, and a Democratic governor. That would be a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm going to ask you to dig a little deeper, to lean in a little harder to help these candidates. I have been crisscrossing the state for Kamala Harris, but I've been supporting local candidates for the state legislature and the state Senate as well. I literally just sat down with my team and came up with like 10 days from now until election day that I am dedicating to just solely campaigning for state House and state Senate candidates. And we're getting those dates out to the campaigns now to help build events, to help build momentum for these candidates, because we know the next 2 years are going to be critical for the governor and I's agenda. I know many folks don't think about this, but we're at the halfway mark in our administration. After this year, the governor and I will unfortunately be in cycle again. We will be preparing to run again. So, the legislative victories that we're going to have in the next 2 years are going to be critical to maintaining the governor's office and to moving Pennsylvania forward. So I am so excited about these candidates. I'm so excited about the work you all are doing, and I look forward to supporting all of you as we move forward in the next 83 days to make sure we flip the Senate blue.
Thank you so much. You haven't joined us before, but one of the things we always talk about is we believe in a reflective democracy. We believe that until and unless our elected officials look like all of us, we will not have the democracy we think we have or the democracy we deserve. And I love that that's a similar message you're getting from the top of the ticket now, the national ticket, but it's also something that you've seen the changes in the elected bodies in Pennsylvania. You've watched it over the years.
Oh, it's been amazing to see the number of women that have grown in the Pennsylvania Legislative Caucus. The Black Caucus continues to grow with every cycle. I mean, yeah. I'm a product of that. I represented a seat that was a non-traditional seat for an African American to represent in the state house. And so it's truly amazing to see the diversity in Pennsylvania. It's something we all should be proud of.
And it is something that people, get a little snippy sometimes when I mention it. But when we started, a number of the local Democratic parties in the counties thought that if it was a difficult race, if it was a hard race, if it was going to be a close race, you had to have a regular candidate. And a regular candidate was the white guy, because you couldn't have anybody who was going to upset anybody. And what we've proven is that people of color can win. Women can win in Pennsylvania. And this year, we'll turn to Senator Collette next. She worked hard to get women to run for the state Senate seats. The other thing I'm very proud of is that when we started, both the Democratic caucuses in both the House and the Senate were about 18% women, the Democratic caucuses. Now both of them are 36% women.
Wow.
After this election, we'll be 40% women. We have a woman speaker. We have made a difference, and it's all of you. Last cycle, we invested $700,000 in races across Pennsylvania. This year, we're already at $400,000, a few $1,000 short of that. But we have over $100,000 already in the bank to put the next round of funding out there. This is important, but it's not enough. And that's what you're going to hear over and over again today, folks. It's not enough. Please support us. And I know you can hang around for as long as you can, Lieutenant Governor. And I'm going to turn now to the great Senator Maria Collette.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Thank you to Represent PA for convening us. It's so nice to see so many friendly faces and new faces as well. I want to thank Nicole and Patty and Kate for being here. Thank you for running. Really, it's not an easy thing to do. So thank you for stepping up and taking on that challenge. Thank you to our Lieutenant Governor, who has been an incredible leader in our Senate. Even during, these tough times where we're in the minority. So let me get right to it and talk about why it is so critically important that we flip our state Senate and how we really do have an opportunity to do it this year. Thanks to, and Chris alluded to this earlier in her introduction, to the hard work of, so many of you on this call, we were able in 2022 to see history made in our state house. And we flipped it to a Democratic majority, and it is by 1 seat, but we have an opportunity to expand that majority. And when we do that, we're going to be able to have even more wonderful legislation passed through the House. But then what happens? You heard. It dies in the Senate. Why does it die in the Senate? Because a Republican majority doesn't want to vote on these bills. They do not want to move these bills. But let me tell you this. Those 400 some bills that passed through the House, they didn't pass through the House just on party lines. There were a lot of Republican House members that voted for those bills, which tells us it's not that they're against policy. It's that they're just being obstructionist for the sake of being obstructionist. So we have good policy. We know it's the policy that most Pennsylvanians want to see implemented here. We can do it if we get to that 25-25 majority. As you heard our wonderful Lieutenant Governor tell you, that is a majority. It sounds like a tie, but we're going to make it a majority, and we are going to make sure that we use that power to do really good things and help Governor Shapiro pass and sign some really great legislation. Let me tell you about the seats that we're interested in. So 2 of those seats, we don't have those candidates here on the call. We have men running in those seats. One of them is Senate District 45. That is held by a Democrat right now, but he's retiring. So House member Nick Piscatano is running in that seat. Please just take a look at it. If it's something that you're interested in helping to support, we need to keep that Democratic seat. Nick is not out of the woods. His opponent is funded heavily by the Republican majority, the President pro tem, Kim Ward. That is she's running someone who's a personal friend against Nick Piscatano. And we're, concerned rightfully. It is a woman on the ballot. And we know in a year when people are really excited to vote for women up and down the ballot, we want to make sure that we get the message out that Nick Piscatano's female opponent is not the better member to send to the Senate. So take a look at that race. That's Senate District 45. And in Senate District 49 in Erie, we have Jim Wirtz running. He's a great candidate. He's doing the work up there. We have a really good shot as long as we can keep up the momentum and let folks know that we have a Democrat on the ballot who is going to bring Democratic ideals to our state Senate. But I want to shift now to the incredible women that we have on this call that you're going to hear from. State Representative Patty Kim and Nicole Rosito. These are 2 phenomenal women who have stepped up and said, I will take on the challenge of running for our state Senate. With these 2 seats and with the other 2 I just mentioned, we are going to get to that 25-25 majority. But it doesn't happen without really hard work. And Patty Kim and Nicole are putting in that hard work. I can tell you, they are knocking doors. They are making phone calls. They are raising money. As we all know, it takes a lot of dollars to get across that finish line. And I am working really hard with our Senate Democratic Campaign Committee to make sure that stakeholders understand that their investment in the Senate Democratic Campaign Caucus and in Nicole and Patty means that we're going to get to a majority, and we're going to bring those bills that have just been languishing up for a vote. What does that really mean? It means that when we're at 25-25, we have the power to appoint people to committees. And we have the power to appoint Democratic majorities to those committees. The way that our rules are set up in the Senate, the majority party is able to appoint and design those committees as they see fit. Right now, I sit on committees where there may be, 5 Democratic members sitting on the committee to 11 Republican members sitting on the committee. No matter what, we are never going to get the votes in that committee to pass Democratic legislation unless we have Republican colleagues on our side. And that happens very infrequently. So with the ability to be at 25-25, it means that we can build in those committees Democratic majorities that are going to make sure that when we have policy on education funding, that we have the members to get those bills out of committee, that when we have policy on, I saw someone put in the chat box, criminal justice reform, talking about life without parole, death by incarceration. How do we end those things? We end those things by passing good legislation out of committee and bringing it up to the floor for a vote. And I'll tell you something right now, my Republican colleagues on the other side of the aisle, it's not that they don't believe in these policies or they don't have constituents in their districts that believe in these policies. It's that they don't want to put up a vote that their MAGA right-wing constituents are going to give them a hard time about. So what we need to do is put the pressure on. We need to say, we're bringing these bills up for a vote. We want to see where you stand. Right now, they're able to hide behind their majority, and they don't ever have to show their cards. They don't ever have to show their constituents where they really stand on these issues. So we want to tell them, hey, you have to put your vote up. You have to show us where you stand. Not only do they not bring bills up for a vote that they don't want to vote on, but they table every amendment that we try to offer to make a bill better. And they table those so that they, again, don't have to vote, show their cards. They do not have to show where they stand on policy. When we are at a 25-25 majority, we have the opportunity to say to them, show us where you stand. Show your constituents where you stand. Show the people of Pennsylvania where you stand. And the more that we're able to hold them accountable for where they stand, the better our chances are of getting someone like Kate Lennon elected in SD, I'm going to get it wrong, 47. So, Kate, I want to tell you, thank you for running. I know there are so many people that are looking at that race and saying, gosh, does Kate even have a chance to win? You know what? What Represent knows is that Kate has a chance to change hearts and minds in her district. She has the chance to show people that, hey, it's not okay to hide behind your majority. It's not okay to never put up a vote. It's not okay to never stand up and say, these are my beliefs. This is where I stand. So Kate is working hard every day to show the voters in that district that they have a choice. And that's what we are working hard to do. When Kamala Harris announced that she was going to be the candidate and we saw our incredible President Joe Biden put his support behind her, what we were telling the American people was, you have a choice. And the people of Pennsylvania are ready to stand up and support that choice. They're ready to support Patty Kim. They're ready to support Nicole Rosito. They're ready to support Kate Lennon, Nick Piscatano, Jim Wirtz. These are the people that we believe when we bring them into our state Senate, we will be able to affect that change that so many Pennsylvanians have been waiting on. Minimum wage rules, workers' rights, reproductive choice, funding for education. These are all things, as you heard Lieutenant Governor Davis say, that are being held hostage by a Republican majority. The last time the Democrats had a majority in our state Senate, you know what we were able to do? Implement the first in its kind in the nation CHIP program to help uninsured children. Imagine what we can do these days when we get to a majority in our state Senate. There is absolutely opportunity to do it. We've got incredible candidates that are working hard. I see the polling. I am on those calls every week, listening to what their campaigns are doing to make sure that they're messaging effectively to people, that they're getting people energized and excited about this race and their races down ballot. We are here to remind every one of you on this call that when you invest in Represent, when you support an organization that supports good candidates, Democratic candidates, we can get good things done in Pennsylvania. And I know that Governor Shapiro has been around this state and now around our country talking about all of the good things that he can do in Pennsylvania. You know what? If we give him that Democratic majority to match the Democratic majority in the House, he can get even more good things done. So I'm going to call on each and every one of you, please keep investing your time, your money, keep up that word of mouth. Let people know, hey, this is what's at stake. It is not just about a presidential race that we know is really incredibly important for our nation's trajectory. but it's really important that Pennsylvanians stand up, go to the polls, and show everyone where we stand too. And we stand with the values that are democratic ideals, the values that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are talking about, the values that I know Patty Kim has represented in our state house for over a decade, and that she will continue to represent when she becomes my colleague in our state Senate. The values that Nicole Rosito has lived every single day as an educator, as someone who has served her local community in elected office, as someone who has raised her children in that community. These are the values that we want to come to our state Senate. We want to put a gavel in their hands and tell them, you are in charge of the bills that come before this committee. Please let us see a vote on good democratic legislation. I am excited and hopeful that Kate Lennon is going to even expand the Democratic outreach in her district and get people to say, hey, I am ready to show up and vote for a Democrat. And it might not be this time around, but what we know is that next time we are going to be able to show people even more that those Democratic voices are not drowned out, they are not buried. We can bring them to the forefront and we can make good change if we are able to get good people elected. And I want to comment, Anita Lewis, thank you for your comment in our chat box. We have got to identify and elect African-American women to our state Senate. It is absolutely unconscionable that we do not have that representation in our state Senate. I will admit we are a smaller body than the state house, only 50 state senators. So, we do have less of an opportunity to look for and elect those people around our state, but it can be done. It must be done. It should be done. So we will continue looking. If you know someone, anyone on this call, you know someone in your areas that you think would be a great candidate to put forward, please reach out, let me know, because I am in the business of candidate recruitment. I am in the business of finding good people who want to run, who want to stand up and represent the values of their community and say, hey, I'm not going to let bad things happen on my watch, and I'm going to make sure we send good bills to Governor Shapiro. We want to elevate Pennsylvania. We want everyone to see the good work that we are and can be doing more of here in our state. So I know that was a lot of talking from me. I was paying attention to the chat box. I didn't see questions come through, but I want to implore each and every one of you, please listen to the messages that Patty and Nicole and Kate are going to give you here today. Please support them. Please know that when we get to that 25-25 majority, we are going to do everything we need to do to advance good policy here in our Commonwealth and meet our other states that are in a trifecta that are passing incredibly, positive legislation that is uplifting and helping people in our state. We can do that too. We just need the numbers. Thanks, everyone.
Do you all understand why we're such strong fans of Senator Colette's? Do you understand why we'll do whatever she asks us to do and support candidates? We want to be everybody's gotten to know Governor Tim Walz in the last week. He's able to do what he's doing in Minnesota because of narrow majorities in both his House and his Senate. We love Gretchen Whitmer. I love Gretchen Whitmer. I'm a native Michigander. I love Gretchen Whitmer. But she's been able to do what she's doing because of narrow majorities in her House and in her Senate. Pennsylvania is has a lot of power put into the state legislature. We are not like some states where the governor has complete control. We need to be like Minnesota and Michigan. And that's in our hands. By the way, you know whose hands it's in also? It's in Patty Kim's hands. So Patty Kim, how's your race? How expensive is it going to be? And are you going to join Senator Colette in the Senate?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Christine, for having me. I am so pumped up after Senator Colette's talk. I cannot wait to work with her. I think I'm a little bit older than her, but I want to be like her. So Maria, thank you so much for your support. We are in lockstep when it comes to the Senate Democrats and the governor, and you saw the lieutenant governor. We are all laser focused on doing this because we've done this before and we can do it again. With the House, I was in the minority for 10 very painful, long years. And one day, this clouds parted and we woke up and we were in the majority. Republican Brian Cutler woke up and realized that he's no longer Speaker of the House, and that was one of the best experiences. So being in the House now, we have passed, as you heard, a lot of really great bills. One of our proudest moments, and I think Representative Fleming is here as well, who's in the House, to push that button for Joanna McClinton was one of the proudest moments that we have experienced, to put her in the Speaker seat as the first woman. I am Majority Chair of the Insurance Committee. We get to push the bills out, the ones that we think are good, a lot of good Democratic bills, and we have a groove. So why in the world am I leaving a minority party chamber to go into the majority chamber? Because we've done it before and we can do it again. And Christine and Represent PA have been with us for so many years, just pushing us. And I'll give you an example as to why Represent PA is so important to candidates like myself and Nicole and Kate. You know, I have a $1.2 million commercial and digital plan. We have raised a little bit over $800,000, and I will be doing call time, which we all dread. I'm calling donors who don't know who the heck I am. These are cold calls. I get nervous. I don't know if they're going to hang up the phone. And then in between call time, I'll get a call from Christine and say, hey, Patty, guess what? We're going to send you a check. And it's a boost. So during the slog, I have a pep in my step that, you know, I just got support, and I'm going to continue going on and doing the hard work. So Represent PA is like the ant in the back, just saying, keep going, you got this, giving us some resources so that we can do our job even better, because it is a slog out there. But I want to leave with a positive note. When I went door knocking, a lady chased me down because I had just left her house. Nobody was there. And she said, Patty, I'm sorry I missed you. I just got my daughter to register to vote. She's 18. Before, she did not want to vote for a rematch with Trump and Biden. But now that Kamala Harris is in the race, we rushed out to get her registered so that she can vote for the first woman president of the United States. I feel the energy out there. And I want to say, you know, even Kate is maybe not a top tier race. Anything can happen this year. We can wake up and be in the majority. I know there are polling out there. They're pretty accurate, but anything can happen. And I'm so excited for us to flip the House. We already flipped the House, flip the Senate, so we can get really good things done. And it was already mentioned, I've been working on raising the minimum wage for 10 years. We got it passed last year in the House, and it's just stuck in the Senate. So why don't I just go out there, instead of flipping them off, the Senate Republicans, why don't you pass this? We're going to flip the Senate instead and make it happen. So thank you everyone for being on this call. Thank you for investing on us. I think it's worth your investment. Back to you, Christine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, soon to be Senator Kim. We really appreciate that. And speaking of minimum wage, you know, Senator Collette talked about forcing the Republicans to actually vote on things. One of my favorite examples of that is in SD 49, where Jim Wirtz is running against Dan McLaughlin. Dan McLaughlin has a great Twitter feed, or X feed, or whatever you want to call it, where he talks about it's ridiculous that minimum wage hasn't been raised. We really need to raise minimum wage. And yet he's being protected. They haven't had to vote on it. You want to go back and say, if it's that important to you, why are you not pushing your Republican majority? But they don't. They hide behind it. And these are the kind of things that we can bring out into the open and force them. And that's what Senator Collette talked about. And that's why we need Senator Kim to put it out there to make sure that these guys have to vote on these things. And it's going to be wonderful. So thank you. And I love making the phone calls. We always decide after we've allocated funds who gets to call who. I get to call Patty Kim, and it just makes me feel good. I feel like everybody's a benevolent aunt handing out money. And speaking of handing out money, we have Nicole Rashida with us, and we've mentioned she's a school teacher. Senator Collette was part of the team that identified her as a fabulous Senate candidate. I had the pleasure of talking with her before she declared, saying, please, please, please run, and we will raise money for you. And future Senator Rashida, how's your campaign going?
Thank you so much, Christine. It's always so wonderful to see you, and as Patty mentioned, hear your voice, either on a screen or on the phone. It's just some of the best absolute moments so far of this campaign. First, thank you all of you for being here, and thank you, Represent, for being one of the most fabulous organizations that I've been involved with so far. It just brings me such joy to represent such powerful, strong women in the state. And I just feel so proud to be in this position right now. Also, Lieutenant Governor Davis, I thank him for his support and leadership. Senator Collette was one of the first people to reach out and talk to me and support me and get the ball rolling. So I will be forever grateful for her and to her as well. And also to all my other fellow running mates. I commend you because I know what you're going through right now, and I support you wholeheartedly. And just keep going, because I know that we can do this. And when we get together, we're going to do some amazing things. About myself, for those of you that don't know me, because I am not a well-known elected official, I am this would have been my 28th year public school teacher. I took a leave of absence this fall from my job to put 100% work into winning this seat. I'm a mother of two, one in college, one on their way to high school, two boys. And I've been a coach since I started teaching. I just always wanted to grow up and be like my father, who was a teacher and a coach, and my mother, who was also a teacher and a school librarian. I just worshiped them, loved them, thought all of the things that they did and the joy that they brought to their students and their families. I never had a doubt on what I wanted to do for the rest of my life until recently, when I decided to make a change. And it's still because of my parents that I'm making this change. My father's not with me any longer. He actually was one of the first teachers to bring the AFT union to his school district. And, I thought, this is the time to run for this race, because I am running against a person who is the chair of the labor committee and does not support his unions. And we're going to talk about that. I was just over the moon not long ago. We got the AFL-CIO endorsement, and I actually just broke down in tears from exhaustion and joy, because we did not get that endorsement for the primary. And for us to receive this speaks volumes, because my opponent sits as the chair of the labor committee. And as of right now, Maria could probably give you more details on this if you would like them. I believe there are 23 bills that are just sitting there that he refuses to pass, will not pass, because most of the bills that he won't pass are bills to protect union members, bills to raise minimum wage. And when you want to do those things and support those things, it makes corporations and bosses pay more money. And that's not going to happen with him. We need to make sure that this happens. Those 23 bills. I know that Christine said she wants me so badly on the education committee, and boy, oh boy, do I so want to be there. But I want to be on that labor committee too. And I want to replace him. And as a third generation union person myself, I want to make sure those 23 bills get passed. Hands down. Even Lieutenant Governor said, the Lieutenant Governor referred to it, that there's a lot of magnificent legislation and policy that's just sitting stagnant and on hold. And that's just what made me motivated to run for this seat. I want to see the changes. As a union member and a union elected official within my local union, I've seen the positive changes that can happen when people work together and make those things happen. And I'm thrilled. But as we said, it takes money, a lot of money. I am in a very expensive county as far as advertising is concerned. We are up on digital right now, but your money helps us stay on TV longer, to get that message out that my opponent isn't doing what he's supposed to do. He's not helping students feel safe. He's not helping teachers feel like they're doing their job right. He's not funding public schools appropriately. Students aren't getting the programs that they need. And the women that I talk to on the doors are terrified. They are so frightened. And we are one governor away from all of these horrible, horrendous situations. We need to flip the Senate, and everything that you can do to help us is going to do that for us. And I just feel that I have the absolute pleasure, as when I win this seat, to put people over poor policy and corrupt PACs. And I'm so excited to want to do this for all of you. And 83 days. Picture the possibilities when we can do this. And I'm just grateful. I thank you. And I'm in my union shirt. When I leave the meeting, I'm on my way down to the SEIU. They're having a rally for the nurses at West Penn Hospital. So I'll be down there with my troops and getting the message out. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much.
You know, when I talk about reflective democracy, most people just think I'm referring to gender and race and maybe sexual orientation. I'm also talking about diversity of backgrounds. You heard from Senator Collette was talking. She didn't mention that she's a nurse. Do you know how valuable her medical background has been during COVID? Do you know how valuable this has been in discussions? It's not even, it's phenomenal how well thought of she is by her peers because of who she is, but also because of her background. Don't you think we need a public school teacher union member as part of the, you know, I love that, I just put in the chat, I love the focus on union members by the national ticket. I love the, how that's done. You know, Nicole talked about the importance of her just having received the AFL CIO endorsement. That's a big deal because so often the unions in Pennsylvania have been supporting the Republicans because that's where the money is, because we've heard stories that, oh, I just need, he's a Republican on like, he's a Republican on the labor committee. And so we just need to have an in into him. No, you need to have somebody who's going to support good worker policies. And that's why we need Nicole Ruscito, and we need to call her Senator Ruscito when we see her next. I promised her I'm coming to her swearing in ceremony. And now we're going to take another look at Kate Brent. Kate, you're here?
Yes, I am.
So we talk about our top tier races. I'll tell you what I tell people, and you're going to tell me where I'm wrong. I tell people represent supports women, all women who are running for office for these offices at various levels. We like the idea that first we force the opponents to spend money. She's running against somebody who hasn't had competition and he hasn't had to spend money. And the state Republican Senate committee hasn't had to spend money in this district because, hey, Elder Vogel's going to win. So why should we spend money there? He's having to pay attention and they're having to spend money in the district, number one. Number two is that she's bringing in votes for the top of the ticket. When she goes door to door and talks to people, she can talk about the importance of her race, but people are excited. And if they want to go out and vote for Kate, they will also, while they're there, happen to vote for Vice President Harris at the top of the ticket. They'll vote for Senator Casey. Those are all good things. And she is bringing out voters. And number three, and that's where you come in, Kate, she actually can win. It's a long shot, it's difficult, but she's going to tell you about the enthusiasm she sees and the momentum she's building. So take it away, Kate.
All right. Thank you, Christine, so much for having me here. Thank you for supporting me in July when we received your endorsement and the financial support that came with it. That was really a huge boon to our campaign. We were maybe considering doing a bake sale at that point. So we really appreciate the support that Represent has offered. I have to tell you, at the beginning of this conversation, and I'm listening to Senator Collette and even the Lieutenant Governor, we're confident. I mean, numbers are one thing, but there's boots on the ground. We are truly a grassroots campaign over here. And Beaver County, and the Beaver Dems will tell you this, is not red. It's not red. There are people out there. We have an amazing organization in both of the parties, Beaver County and Butler County Dems. They have been so supportive of me. They are outdoor knocking Beaver Dems twice a week, and they have been since June. So we think that we really have a chance at this, and no offense to the Lieutenant Governor, and I think he's leftist, but I would rather be casting that 26 vote Austin than you. And I think that we can make that happen. Butler County, someone started a Facebook group, Butler County Women for Kamala Harris. And within 4 days, there were 1,000 people in that group. That is women in Butler County. And Butler County is red, but the part of Butler County that's in District 47 is not that red. Governor Shapiro carried some of the precincts in 2022. He won in Beaver County in 2022. So that this district seems red, or people think that we don't have a chance, I don't think that's true. I mean, we're out there knocking on doors. We have a lot of groundswell support. One of the things that we hear when I'm out knocking doors is about my opponent is he's not that bad of a guy, but he doesn't really do anything. And my response to them is, why do you want someone in Harrisburg that doesn't do anything? I will do things. I've been endorsed by Planned Parenthood. He has a 0% ranking from Planned Parenthood. Back in 2017, when the legislature was completely Republican, he sponsored Senate Bill 3, which made a crime, a D&E procedure. And if we didn't have Governor Will veto that, that would be the law in Pennsylvania right now. He's going to continue to support things like that come across the desk. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club. He is not a friend to the environment. He was instrumental in getting the cracker plant out here in Beaver County. We believe that with a lot of hard work and financial support from groups like Represent PA and people across the Commonwealth, and I will say this, thank you to Represent PA for this. After the first Zoom meeting where I just was a participant, I got donations from people in Philadelphia. I appreciate that. And that is thanks to you, Christine, and your group. And I'm getting donations from somebody in California too. People are ready for a change here in District 47. And I think I can bring that change.
Thank you. How expensive is your district? We've heard about the millions that the seats in the other 2 seats are going to cost.
I mean, it's not Allegheny County media by any stretch of the imagination. Right. And at least as we sit here today, he's not doing anything in that way. I forced him to go to all these little festivals and things of that nature.
I love it.
And he did spend almost $70,000 on postcards trying to wipe me out in the primary, because I had to run the write-in campaign. So we made him spend some money. At this point, I think it's a wait and see attitude on everybody's position. We'd like $80,000. We think that's what we need. We really have to push on social media.
Thank you. I haven't seen any questions that haven't been answered. I love the fact that a few people from Beaver County have chimed in and said it is winnable. Feels good, doesn't it?
It really does. And we believe that. I mean, and I'm sure Nicole and Patty can appreciate this as well. When you go out on knock at doors, there's an enthusiasm out there right now. And hopefully that will carry down the ticket. We're going to give it our best shot.
Before the call started, Nicole made that comment too. Do you want to share with your comment with everybody, Nicole, about how different it is knocking doors?
It's truly been a complete turnaround. In June, people were just disengaged. They didn't really, they would be polite and take your information and thank you so much. A lot of Republicans and independents would just go away kind of thing. But now, wow. Just the other day, this is another thing that completely keeps me inspired to keep moving along and working hard and knocking doors. I had 3 independents and 2 Republicans in one day commit to voting for me because of the message that I got on the doors. And I truly believe that has a lot to do with Kamala and the vice presidential candidate that she selected, who I can't even begin to tell you reminds me so much of my late father that it brings me so much joy, and it's obviously bringing so many other people joy because now they want to talk to you, come out of their door, sit on the porch, and chat. So it's been great.
Isn't that amazing? Patty, I assume you're hearing the same thing.
Yes, same thing. I had a 95-year-old Republican say, I'm voting for you, because I showed up and was willing to knock on his door. So showing up, if we have to look like we're hungry and we want this, that convinces people that we're ready to go. So I keep my candidates and my colleagues, hopefully my future colleagues, let's just keep doing it, keep making those difficult calls. We can get it done November 5th. So good luck to both of you.
Not only can we do this, but we should do this. Not only can we do this, but it is in our hands to get this done. And I think you're hearing that message from the top of the ticket and from, I'm just so in awe of the candidates and Senator Collette, who spoke with us today. I want you to think about what, represents EDGE is to talk about what can be accomplished in Harrisburg. Your state rep, your state senator aren't just the people who show up on your doors, show up at ribbon cutting ceremonies and hand out Eagle Scout awards. They have to work and they have to vote for things that are important. What Represent does is we evaluate and we curate a list of candidates who share your values. You can go find these candidates across the Commonwealth, but we look to put them together and we have discussions about who needs us, what financial support can we provide, and how will we bring change. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, we've invested $396,000 in races across PA, but we need more money. We are going to make our next round we're going to make our next round of endorsements in early September, and we'll have a final round at the end of September or early October. But they need the money as soon as you can. Do you know we already have over $100,000 ready for the next round to take us up to $500,000? We just got notified that there's a national women's electoral group who is sending us $35,000 this week because they are so impressed with our work and they believe in what we're doing and they want to change Pennsylvania. We have to make sure they know that we also want to change Pennsylvania, and that's why we ask for your support. Next slide. You can meet our legislators in person, host a legislator in your house, join a host committee, attend a fundraising event. And speaking of fundraising events, next slide. We have a wonderful in-person event coming up in the Philadelphia area. It's going to be at the City Line Avenue near Philadelphia. You can have a chance to see Senator Collette again. You can have a chance to see Speaker Joanna McClinton. And one of the areas that we're really proud of that has made a difference is by electing more women and by electing Black women to the legislature and talking about issues we care about. We're bringing about discussions and support to work on the issues of Black maternal health, to general reproductive justice. These things would not be happening without Democratic leadership. I still laugh that several of our state legislators I was talking to on the phone after the governor's budget address. And in his budget address, he said, we need to provide menstrual supplies to help women with their, high school students with their periods. Do you know, Tim Walz has been criticized. They call him Tampon Tim because this is something he's championed. It's also in 25 states across the country. And it was put into the budget bill this year through the work of the women that we have supported. We're changing the conversation in Harrisburg. So I'm leaving this up here for a moment so you can go on there and get to that QR code. You can also put your name in our chat and let us know you'd like to get more information about this event. And we'd love to see you there on September 5th. Next slide. We have two other events coming up in the Philly area. Hey, if you live in the Coatesville area, send us a note at either info@representpa or leave your name and contact information in the chat. We have an event tonight at the Stargazer Winery in Coatesville. We also have an event coming up in Winmore on September 19th. Again, both of these events are available to you along with the one that I already showed. Just put your information in the chat and let us know you want to find out more, and we'd love, or email us. We'd love to have you there. You can meet our candidates and you can talk about the issues that are important to you and be in a like-minded group of people. Next slide. What else can you do? That's one of the other questions I get. Besides giving money, and I always say it's besides giving money, in addition to giving money, what else can you do? If any of our endorsed candidates are in your area, volunteer. Volunteer to help your state reps. You know, there's a huge outpouring of support at the top of the ticket. Our candidates need your help and will happily accept any volunteers. Do you live in Beaver, Butler, or Lawrence County? Contact Kate's organization and volunteer to help and knock doors. She'd love to hear from you. And that's true with all the other women that we've supported. One of the other things you can do that's fun is contact the PA Dems Voter Protection Hotline. You can work on your polls on election day to make sure things are going well. You can canvass, or I've done this where you work the hotline. And it's great because people call in and ask you whether they're registered and how they go vote, and you're helping people who want your help. Think of these things. Next slide. And that's our pitch. And it's just about 9:30. We so appreciate you all being on here. As usual, we'll send out the video of this in the next week or so you can share it far and wide with your friends and supporters. But we're very proud of our work. We're proud of these women who are running. And it's 80-something days left till election day. We start voting in Pennsylvania in 60 days, 50 days, something like that. Support us, support these candidates, and let's give ourselves the Commonwealth that we deserve. Thank you very much.